One sunny afternoon in the lush green meadow near a sparkling pond lived two best friends, Gary the Gassy Grasshopper and Jim Bob the Frog. Now, Gary wasn't your average grasshopper. He was bright green with long legs that could leap really high. But the thing that made Gary truly special was his love for soda. And his best buddy Jim Bob? Well, he wasn't any better. Jim Bob loved soda just as much as Gary, and sugary snacks too. One day, Gary and Jim Bob decided to have a special treat. They hopped over to the meadow's corner store, where they each grabbed a big bottle of soda. Gary picked out a fizzy cola, while Jim Bob grabbed a root beer. "This is going to be so much fun," Gary chirped, popping the lid off his bottle. Jim Bob followed suit, and together they drank every last drop. But oh no, they didn't stop there. After finishing their sodas, they decided to snack on some sugary treats: chocolate chip cookies, candy bars, and a huge bag of gummy worms. The sugary sweetness was irresistible. As they finished their snacks, something funny started happening. Gary's stomach rumbled loudly, and Jim Bob's belly made a funny gurgling sound. Both of them looked at each other, their eyes wide. "Uh-oh," said Gary, scratching his belly. "I think we might have overdone it." Jim Bob patted his round tummy. "I feel like there's a storm brewing inside me," he said, giggling. Before they knew it, both of them let out huge, loud farts that echoed across the meadow. Gary and Jim Bob burst into laughter. "Whoops!" Gary giggled. "I think we're going to be gassy all day." To make the most of their day, they decided to jump on Gary's trampoline. As they bounced higher and higher, their stomachs wobbled with every jump. They bounced and giggled, creating a funny rhythm with their farts that made them laugh even harder. But soon, they realized their tummies were rumbling again. "I think we should try an obstacle course," Jim Bob suggested, thinking it might distract them from their gas. Gary and Jim Bob set up a fun obstacle course using sticks, leaves, and a big puddle of water they had found. They hopped over logs, crawled under bushes, and jumped through puddles. But with each leap, they couldn't help but let out more farts. "Looks like we're farting through the obstacle course," Gary said between giggles. Jim Bob laughed too. "At least we're having fun." After the obstacle course, they decided to blow bubbles. Jim Bob was great at it, using his long frog tongue to create the biggest bubbles ever. As they blew bubbles into the air, their stomachs rumbled again. Gary and Jim Bob couldn't stop themselves. They looked at the bubbles floating in the sky, giggling as they popped in midair. "Our farts are turning into bubbles," Gary said, laughing. By now, their day had become one big, bubbly, gassy adventure. They jumped, ran, and blew bubbles, all while laughing at the funny noises their tummies were making. With every leap and hop, Gary and Jim Bob's stomachs let out a series of silly farts. but they didn't mind. They were too busy having fun together. Jim Bob jumped in the pond to take a quick dip. Out of nowhere, Bubbles appeared. He couldn't stop farting. As the sun began to set and the day came to an end, Gary and Jim Bob sat on the edge of the pond, both feeling a little bit tired but happy. "Today was the best day ever," Jim Bob said, his belly still softly rumbling. Gary smiled and patted his tummy. "I agree, Jim Bob. Even with all the gas, it was totally worth it." And so from that day on, Gary the Gassy Grasshopper and Jim Bob the Frog learned a valuable lesson. While it's okay to have a treat now and then, it's best not to overdo it. They still enjoyed their sodas and snacks, but they made sure to leave a little room for some peaceful moments without all the rumbling and farting. And every now and then, when the wind was right, they would laugh at the memory of their bubbly, gassy adventure.